All right, you are good to go.
Thanks, Melissa. I'm going to read the preamble so you guys can do whatever you want for 30 seconds. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, GL Chapter 38, Section 18, the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on a number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Southborough Taxation Aid Committee will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information in the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties with a right and or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the Town of Southborough's website at https://www.southboroughtown.com. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to watch or participate in the meeting may do so in the following manner by finding the meeting at https://www.southboroughtown.com/remote meetings. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on Southborough's website an audio or video recording transcript or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. There we go. So first up, December 21st, 2020 minutes. Is everyone okay with those? Did we see them? I hope. If not, we'll put it off.
I didn't see them. And in fact, I even went to the town website and they weren't listed there.
Okay. Did I send it to Jeff or Hal? Did you get them?
I thought I saw something, but maybe there weren't.
I have the minutes to the early December meeting. What was that?
Okay.
I
So
thought
if
I
you just
got
send it again.
That might have been my error then if I didn't push send.
We had a December 2nd meeting, so I had those minutes, but I didn't see those. And then I went to the website and the minutes weren't listed on the website. And you post them there, right, Brian? You post them there.
Yeah, clerk's office does, yes.
Okay, all right. Yeah, so.
Okay,
I thought I December.
it's December 21.
Yeah.
That's okay. If we can just postpone that till the next meeting, that's not a huge deal. So I will send those tomorrow. I'm making a note now.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so mostly the one reason we're here is the criteria for approving applications. So I don't think we'll make any hard decisions today because I'd like Liz to weigh in. But I think we can toss just a few quick ideas around.
Mhm.
I did want to just remind the committee and Mary Ann, because she wasn't here last year, that we did approve 7 people, 750 each. So we spent 5,200. In the last year, the fund has earned all of that back. It's earned about $6,000. So we've covered the 5,200 that we spent last year, which is good. That's a good thing. So we had the right amount. The fund balance as of December 31st was $40,248. So just a few numbers to keep in mind as we talk about this stuff. I think last year we pretty much took the application list. I think you saw that little Excel list that we had, and we did market value of homes. We did taxes they pay for the year. We did, I looked up to see if they had a mortgage. There was like several criteria, but I don't think, and Jeff, you can jump into or Hal, I don't think we ever really had a hard and fast criteria. We kind of looked at the people who applied, and for the most part,
Yeah.
most of them qualified. I mean, on the face of it. So
I did have one question because the one person, number 5, had a length of residence for 2.2 years. And I thought the criteria was 5 years, but did you kind of waive that for that person?
Do you remember that, Jeff? I can't, or how? I can't.
I don't think that, you know what? I think we talked about it, but I think we kind of came to the conclusion that most people that are going to apply for this are going to be long-term Southborough residents
Okay.
and not necessarily people just moving in. And I think when we did see the list after the fact is when we started to think about maybe we should put that in as a criteria or a hurdle, that a minimum of 5 years of residency of some sort.
But you do have that in on your application. Your application said you must own or occupy and
Right.
suffer for 5 or more years. So that's why when I saw the 2.2 years, I didn't know if maybe you made like a special.
I don't remember the 2.2, Brian, to be honest, if that was something we waived for that one. I mean,
We either waived it or was there one that moved within town? There might have been one that moved within town.
Oh,
yeah, something was, now it wasn't something too where they within town, but also a situation where they then took residents. They'd been living in Southborough, but only recently had taken that residence.
Yes, I'm pretty sure that was the situation. So Mary Ann, they were in town. It's
Right.
just at that residence, it was 2 years, so that's why
Okay.
we let it go.
okay.
Yeah.
That
Now
was-
that I just looked at the application, I'm like, what? Just jogged my
I know.
memory.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't recall saying, well, these people just moved here, so we'll waive the 5 year.
No,
It
no.
was a situation where they had been in town for a long time, but
Yep.
then
Yep,
moved
I
into
totally
a
agree. Yep.
place.
All right. That was my only question with that information.
Yeah, so I think today we just want to have ideas on what we're kind of thinking for, and one easy one I think that I thought of was like, I think whoever applies, we should definitely prioritize people who have not applied before. So if any people apply again, I think we should, and if, versus someone who's new, I think the person who's new should get like at least first dibs, in my opinion. That's one thing.
And I forgive me if are we saying that they have to be homeowners in town or no?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So something that, we can compare numbers to, Brian, and this would be through Paul Sabelli, is how many exemptions were given to seniors in town for real estate taxes. And then that gives us a baseline as far as how many applicants we can, that might be the ceiling for applicants for this program.
We could.
I don't know.
I was actually thinking, do we actually send, I don't know if we want to go in that direction though. Do we actually send like applications to your?
No.
your
I'm saying
people?
internally, so we have an idea of how many of numbers, because we're always, we were up against it last year. Like we had what, 35,000 in the fund
Yep.
last year.
Yep, 35.
So the concern was, distributing half that amount of money or a significant amount of it and not being able to offer the following year. And I think until we have a more stable count, we're still kind of keeping conservative about how much is distributed to people, is my understanding. But if people want to go up to 1,000, I know that was discussed, but I guess I'm just saying, as a knowing numbers internally, we can compare numbers to what the assessors are seeing for those type of deferrals, or not deferrals, but
You're talking about like a veterans exemption, maybe a person, I think one of these people did the tax work-off program, so all those other exemptions that are out there, and they're
Yep.
quite a few. There's some deferrals, but there are some exemptions. So you're saying if a person has applied and gotten a number of those exemptions, then maybe we should include that in the assessment process, because they're tapping all those others, and do they need to tap ours too?
we could, but there are some programs that can't overlap.
Mm-hmm.
So you get like you can't bundle all these different, you get whatever the best discount would be.
Mhm.
But senior work off is a different program.
Correct.
So you can add that one. I guess I'm saying, disability, veterans, income, whichever is the most lucrative program for you is what you would be getting.
Oh, so in other words, look at those programs, have these people tap into that program and maybe not tap into our program, that type of thing. So in other words, give them a heads up on.
They could, but I mean, honestly, Marianne, we're giving out more money than some of the other programs available through the assessor. They're
Yeah, some of them, yeah.
one, I think veterans or disability, Brian, you would know better. I just can't recall off the top, but one of them's a $400 discount.
400, yeah, 400.
Yeah,
so
yeah. I mean,
I don't
yeah.
I don't necessarily have an issue with somebody getting that discount and then applying for, monies that are in this program. That doesn't, I guess I'm just saying, if 25 people applied for those discounts, does that give us some sort of a ballpark as to how many we can expect to get for this program?
Yeah.
And then be able to kind of look forward to that amount of money to go out.
I mean,
Last year, we had
Yeah,
only,
we can definitely get that from Paul, Jeff, just so you know.
Okay.
Well, you know that. You know that.
last year, we only had one, we didn't have anybody who got the assessor exemptions, and only that one senior tax write-off. And as far as I know, this past year, there are no senior tax write-offs, as far as I know, that because of the everything's closed down, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Is that right, Mary Ann, as far as you know?
right, that's correct. That's
Yeah.
correct. Yeah. Now,
Yeah, that's interesting that no one had that last year. I remember commenting on that.
yeah, there was one person who had the tax write-off, right?
Mhm.
Now, Jeff, when you were talking about these tax exemption, the ones, some of them have a limit on their assets, and that was one of the questions. Although I don't know if we want to get into something like that, because when you say assets, now what are you talking about? Are you talking about investments? Are
They're
you
talking about everything, Marianne. When somebody has to apply for that, they have to turn over their tax return.
Yeah.
And then, it gets figured out in the assessor's office what those assets are. Because I mean, if is it fair if somebody has a pretty significant portfolio and they're just living off their Social Security?
Right. Exactly.
They've got this huge nest egg.
Yeah.
It may not be, entirely fair to go ahead and do that if all they're claiming is the only money I'm getting is through Social Security.
Well, and see, we don't have any of that requirement here.
Right.
So,
Right.
I mean, do we want to get into that, or I mentioned, I sent out that little comment sheet, I think, to everybody. And one of the things that I did mention about after our initial review of the applications, that to turn to the three people that Pam, the senior center director, mentioned are very close to people in town, and that's the youth and family service person. There's Cindy Beard at the senior center, and then also Barbara Jandrew, who's with the food pantry. And she said those three people really have the pulse of the people in town that really need some of this help. And so, I mean, we can get into assets and kind of make that a whole issue, but do we have to, I guess, is that something that we want to do, or do we want to just do it more looking at the applications and then maybe touching base with some of these people to see, to just verify, the need, I guess.
I think we were not requiring verification of assets last year, only because we didn't think we were going to get too many applicants anyway. So why add more hurdles and barriers
Okay.
to something like that? So I think it was a kind of a wait and see attitude to see how things would unfold.
Yeah.
And then just, take it from there.
Yeah.
But
Last year was a little bit of, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Brian. I'm sorry.
No, I just was gonna say, last year was a little bit of a beta year. It was a little bit of a test year, so
Yeah.
we knew that, where it was gonna be.
Well, and then the other thing, and Brian, you answered some of these questions already, like what our balance is now, how much we took in. So it looks like it covered that. And then, do you look at and say, kind of like what your financial planner tells you, well, financially, you can spend out, X amount of percentage to try to keep this fund, replenishing itself. And do you do it on a percentage basis? Do you say, well, we have $40,000 now. Well, 4% of that we can spend out whatever, or 3% or 2%, whatever you want to do, and then say that's what our limit would be for the year. And then the other thing is, I mentioned with the fund, with the trust fund, that when we talked to Nick about that, and he mentioned that he could add to our funds, which I think would be pretty good. And he talked about the different funds and that sometimes they're specific, but is there a specific trust fund that we can tap into every year that states that this is to help people, with their quality of living, which could be, their home. So if there is in fact a trust fund that we can say, well, we'd like to have, the certain percentage coming out of that trust fund a year, maybe that can be an annual contribution that, can be put into our fund. I don't know, just a question there.
Yeah, there's like two of them that are, one that the trust committee itself uses the most frequently, and it's very vague. It's more to help the poor in town or something like that. And there's another one that they don't usually use, but it is still a little generic, and I don't know if it's to help the native born or it's some very vague, another vague thing of helping residents in town. So I think those two are probably the two you'd be referring to. All the other ones are a little more to help hospital expenses or to help this, to help more specific targeted areas. So, but there are a couple we maybe could do that. That's an idea. And yeah, we do have to keep in mind that through this application process that we do have that tool now that Nick was talking about of referring people to that committee directly to get some assistance too. And I think that's a great little tool to have. So we gotta keep that in our mind also. But I think, I think I agree with you, Marianne. I'm not sure I'd be, at least personally, I don't know if I'd get into asset limits and asset balances, and I'm not sure we're there yet. I don't know.
Well, that was just kind of an idea of what you do in the future as you go along. I mean that's obviously what the trust fund does. I mean, he mentioned about how
They do.
They only spend out 2% of their 190,000. I was like,
They do.
Oh, well.
I definitely agree with you that we need to, and this is again a discussion that we need to have with Liz, but I definitely agree that we do have to come up with a target amount that we can spend every year. I would think just throwing it out there, I think it would be somewhere between 5 and 10 because we can recover most of that on decent years. If we're outside 10, I think we're going to be in danger of starting to whittle this down in a few years, and I don't want that. So for longevity purposes, I'd say just think about somewhere in that area.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would, one of on the application form, we don't ask very much about why they're asking for this money in terms of if we have to make a decision. So do we know much about the reasons for it? Is somebody saying this year's been a very unusual year for me because of hospital expenses or because my roof caved in or something like that? Do we get that kind of information so it could be more helpful? And somebody just might reply, well, I just heard about it, so I think I'd apply. I mean, there's kind of a.
I'd almost be careful about that. I mean, I know that certainly could be a help to tip scales as far as people going, but then the negative could be we made that decision because this reason seemed better than this reason.
Mhm.
And it,
Yeah, but on the application, it does say kindly provide a short description of the reason for trust fund assistance. So that's right, that does ask you for a reason. I mean,
It
Oh,
does-
yeah.
a
it
short,
doesn't have to be very much specific on it, you know.
well, I mean, I think people, I think it's a gentle way of saying, what, why do you need this assistance? And people
Okay.
may say, because I've had medical or because of the pandemic or whatever. So it's
Mhm.
there on the application. Yes, you're right. It doesn't say, how far in depth. Although,
detailed, yeah.
although Brian, on your sheet, you did have, like what kind of mortgage and, if they had a, reverse mortgage, a home equity, whatever line of credit. So you did have some information that way on the people as far as what their their mortgage was. So,
Well, we got some of that information. I'm looking at the redacted spreadsheet there. It says somebody had a septic problem, somebody else had medical issues,
right.
somebody got fuel assistance, although there are different funds for fuel assistance, are there not in town besides this one? And
Yes,
then the other one said there's nothing for one, and then another one about a daughter passed away.
Yep.
But, so I guess I would like to just be sure I know a little bit more, even though I don't necessarily feel I need to make a judgment on it, but I like to make sure there's a real reason for it.
Well, that's where if you use the three people that Pam had suggested, I think that gives you a better idea of the person, the people asking without, kind of subjecting them to reveal all your personal information. And I think that's why Pam recommended those three people, because they do work very closely with, with the people in need here in the town. I don't know,
Okay.
that's a suggestion.
I agree with that, Mary Ann. I think they know a lot about people.
Mhm.
The question is, my sense is we're kind of snooping here without telling these people, who applied that, gee, we're gonna check up on all of this by asking other people in town. Okay, and and perhaps they may not have approached any of these people. They may not feel like,
Mhm.
they may not want to go in on this kind of thing. So one of the people may say, I've never met the person. I don't know anything about it. And so
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea because I know what they know about people. I feel somewhat uncomfortable with it though, in terms of.
Well, this may be the reason why in the assessor's office, when we get these applications, that a tax return is requested, because then you can really see a person's financial hardship without having them tell their story.
Okay.
And maybe, yeah, nobody likes to disclose their finances,
no,
but
Mhm.
if I, here are my finances, you see where they are, you piece together how tough things are for us, type of thing.
Mhm.
I don't know. Because I think anybody can come up with a very reasonable need for
Mhm.
assistance, and in their, uh, a septic system that needs replacing is a really, for them, that's everything in the world.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's not a critical life and death, medical situation that another family may be dealing with. So it's,
We do ask for a copy of the last tax return,
yes.
although we don't say whether it should be federal or state or both.
Yeah, I think we need to keep that practice up. I do.
well, if it's federal or state, they still have to show the funds, what their assets are. So,
Yeah, it gets difficult, because I
Sure.
hear, you're right, Hal, you don't want to be doing too many things off the record to kind of go behind the scenes but
it is money being distributed to people, and we have to kind of keep that it's an amount of money, and I'm sure everybody's above board, but you've got to do the due diligence.
right, we do have a responsibility,
Right.
Well,
Um,
even if you just had, Cindy or someone just check off the names that she knew, and she would just check the names that she would say, in need, in other words, not ask why, or not, just do a little check. And then if she didn't know someone on the list, then you just read what they have on the application. But I guess this year again, I think if we just wait and see what applications come in and just look at those, and then try to, again, like you said, Brian, keep within a certain amount of money, 6 to 10,000, whatever you feel, and then try to go from there. So, and then continue to keep working and seeing what, if we have a lot this year, how are we going to then sort things out? How do we rate them? Do we give them a lesser amount or whatever, that type of thing?
And we
Yeah.
things did come together last year. I mean, as we did put because, we had house value, we had taxes, income, mortgage. It started to there was a picture that started to play with most of these. So I think if we get the various pieces and then the applications, what they say, and you're right, Marianne, I mean, I don't have a problem doing, like you said, at least just asking Cindy, not anything formal, not anything.
Yeah.
Well, you
Too
kind of
deep,
do it as like a reference check, where
like
somebody's
a reference
calling,
check, right?
and you just say, are they, like when somebody calls for employment, the only thing you can really say is, yes, they're eligible to be
Right.
rehired. That's, you can't get into details or,
Right.
Would it be appropriate for us to say on the application then that any information submitted is subject to verification? In other words, telling people that we may check on this?
Sure,
Yeah,
I would think so.
yeah, I would think so too.
Well, that is on the application, Hal.
Oh, it is. I forgot we put that there.
All information subject to verification. The committee.
Al needs a new application.
Yeah. So that's,
Okay.
so whoever, you guys did a great job with this application.
I forgot we put that. That's
I
great.
know.
So,
That was my idea, Brian.
good for you, Jeff. Good.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
are the smartest one, so.
See how I remembered that?
So, those are all good points, but I think, that's, we can use our resources that way.
Okay, so I think I was kind of hoping this meeting would be good conversation to kind of think of things for the next meeting, because I think next meeting with Liz, we certainly should make maybe some decisions. So that's good though, because now I've got a few things myself to think about, and this is good ideas, especially and I can talk to Paul between now and our next meeting, Jeff, and kind of just get numbers from him. So I can get that. And
I think
then
that would help us to just understand what exemptions were given, so that we can see what that number may look like for us. I mean,
yeah, no, it can't hurt, right? And it'd be interesting to know. So
Yeah.
I have no problem with that.
because that, I mean, that they chase people down to make sure they get their applications in.
Right.
We're not at that stage yet, but that those are going to be hard and fast numbers that they're getting,
Right.
and we can compare that to what we did last year and what may happen this year.
Mhm.
So I know Liz didn't want to wait too long until the next meeting, lucky us. So
Tomorrow,
not that soon, but she did mention February 10th or February 17th. I think those are Wednesdays. And she's good for those two dates. So I don't know if one of them is better for the rest of the group. Yeah, the 10th or the 17th.
Brian, one of my questions is, how are you going to share the applications with us?
Oh, that's a good question, because last year you guys came in to
Yeah.
town hall.
Right. Well, I yes.
This year, yeah, that's a good question, Marianne. That's a good question.
Like, do you make copies and we can just come and pick up the whole packet or something? I don't know if you want to make copies. I don't know how you feel about that. than taking him out of the townhouse.
So how about this? So if I could do that, and the other caveat is if each of you are comfortable with that, because it puts a little bit of a burden on you to make sure that they don't go anywhere. If you're okay with that, you could take them out and then return them to me, so I know they're returned when you're done with them. Or in the alternate, you could, why don't we have that as an option? And if the other option is you could, and you don't have to do this if you're not comfortable, you could always come in, let me know, and come into town hall and I could let you in. And you could go up into our hearing room, which is pretty open and no one's around, and you could have all the time you want to look at it, make notes, whatever. And, just give it back to me when you're done with that too. Either or, it doesn't matter to me. Like I said, as long, whatever's more comfortable for you guys. I know you have to see it, so we have
These
to
have to be-
have to be able to see it.
By April 1st, Brian? Do
I'm sorry?
These have to be in by April 1st. Is that the deadline we're setting?
Correct. Yeah,
So it'd be after April 1st, they'd be available to us sometime.
right.
And we have to make a decision by,
Oh, that we have to make by, because we wanted to get it for the first, so the deadline's pretty much June, the first week of June.
okay.
So we got time, but it's
Mhm.
just,
Would it be,
more,
it seems like your first thought though, Brian, would make sense to come in, pick up copies, have it for our meeting, and then drop the copies back to you after the meeting that we have.
sure.
We go
Sure.
over.
I
That's
just don't want to make anyone uncomfortable by having, stuff
Oh.
out there, so.
okay. Yeah.
But if you guys are good with it, I'm good with it.
Individually, I mean, I'm fine to pick up copies and bring them back.
Okay. Okay, well, we can decide that down the road too, and there's two options, and whatever you guys want to do, you just tell me and I'll go with it, so that's fine.
Brian, if we were pick up copies, do you make them anonymous for us so that we don't know these people and say, oh gee, it's my next door neighbor and I've been having a fight with him for all these years, and or will we know who the person is?
Jeff, I believe
You
we
should-
did not, did we we didn't redact them, did we? No.
I'll say this, Hal, and I'm sorry, Brian, to cut. When we get abatements for, for assessing.
Okay.
If it's somebody that maybe we know and to your example don't like, the responsible thing to do is really to recuse yourself from
Yes.
the discussion.
No,
of
I
that.
couldn't do that. I just didn't know if you made them anonymous or
No.
we knew the person.
It's so hard to do that because you just don't know who. Brian, I don't. It's up to Brian, but
No, you three and Liz too, is, and me, of course. We're supposed to have a duty to kind of look beyond all that, so I don't have a problem with it. And Jeff, you make a great point. If anyone's uncomfortable knowing someone, just recuse yourself from having an opinion on one person. That's fine, We all have to do that once in a while. That's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. So is the 10th or 17th, does anyone have a preference?
Well, the 17th is a little better for me, if that's
Okay,
not too bad, if that's okay.
is that good for you, Hal and Jeff?
So either one's okay for me.
yeah, I'm
If you're-
fine either way at this point.
And 4:30 is okay, Jeff?
Yeah.
Okay,
I could do
and Hal and Marianne.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's-
4:30 's
Right.
fine.
It's not up to me.
Although we may get our vaccination that day at 4:30, Hal.
hopefully you have it by then. Let's keep our fingers crossed.
I know.
That would be wonderful if it happens that way, Mary Ann, but
Well,
I
excuse
won't
you.
be, if it happens that way, I won't be at the meeting.
That's right. We'll-
Are you, not to find out anybody's age, but I mean, what levels or what phase are you able to make?
I'm really old, Jeff, so I can sign up now.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm phase 2, so.
okay. Were you able to get anything today, Hal?
No,
No.
no. no, nothing at all.
I was telling Hal, my sister also tried today for my parents, and they had the same luck as Hal had, nothing.
Were you able to get on the site and that there were no appointments, or you just couldn't get on the site?
The way the system is set up, Jeff, is right now it's each individual site has their own registration. The state has a map that shows all the sites.
Okay.
For this area here, the two closest places for the general population, I mean, some places have to be a resident of a town or something like that, are Marlboro Hospital and Wegmans in Northborough.
Really?
And yeah, and those are the two available. And they both list, as soon as you get on the website, it comes up, it says no appointments are available.
Wow.
And that's as far as it goes.
Jeez.
We're hoping they get their act together. Let's hope. Let's hope.
Yeah.
We'll end on a positive note. They'll get their act together. So on that note, well, everyone stay well, and
Okay.
I'll send out the minutes, and I will just remind everyone about the 17th when we get a little closer.
All
So
right.
Great. Thanks a lot.
thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Bye, Hal. Bye, Mary. Take care.
Mhm.
See you, Brian.
Bye-bye.